two,
One.
one. Monkey bars. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Thicc Butter podcast. My name's Ralph.
My name is Jesse,
Okay, Thicc.
and aka Butter. Were you trying to cast your voice?
I don't know what I was trying to do.
Cast.
I always try to every time I say the intro, I'm so tired of it. And every time I try to do something different with it.
Spice
Maybe
it.
next time I've rapped it, I've sung it, uh maybe I'll just speak in ebonics. Maybe
You've
the next
done-
one I'll just
I like the French opening. Welcome. What is it? Welcome. That's not French.
I don't remember it all. Think about a podcast.
Think about the
With,
podcast.
my
Yeah, that's
horrible French accent.
yeah, French accent.
Can you do any accent? I can't
No,
do any
I am
accent.
dog shit at accents. I have a really cringy memory of like trying to do a British accent in high school, and it hurts
Is that
my
the last
soul.
time you tried to do it?
Yeah, last time ever. I'm
Never
not an
even
accent
tried?
person. Yeah. I don't know. It's too cringe for me when I do it. Actors
know.
do it all the time.
All
And
right.
it's fine. It doesn't bother me like when other people
I think
do
I
it.
can do words.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I do funny voices and shit. Like I do funny voices. I just don't try to do accents. I don't attempt
It's
it.
hard.
Yeah.
It's really okay. So well, this is gonna be a review for another movie. A new movie. It's crazy because new movies are coming out rapid and they're interesting movies that we want to go see. So it's gonna be um a lot of 2022 content, which is great. And this is for a highly anticipated movie.
This is
For
probably my
me,
most anticipated movie. I can't think of a movie that's more
probably.
anticipated than
I
this
think
one.
so. I mean, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that comes out this year?
Or
Jordan
that,
Peele's new movie, I'm very excited about.
yeah.
Very, very excited about that.
Nope looks
Nope.
really cool.
Best title I think of any movie ever.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And I think Ari Aster has a movie coming out this year.
He does?
There he goes.
I haven't seen a trailer for that. Is it out
That
yet?
hasn't come out yet, no.
Oh, cool.
It's
I'm
called
glad.
Disappointment Boulevard.
That's what it's
Um,
called?
Yeah. Stars Joaquin
Man.
Phoenix. I
Oh,
think it's
man.
about like a writer who has like writer's block and just goes insane or something. I don't know.
I gotta get ready to put on my sad hat for that one because I
But-
bet that one's gonna smack you around a little bit.
But no, there's a lot of great movies coming out. This was definitely like up on my list, and this is The Northman. This just came out this weekend, as that we're recording this, and this is a film directed by Robert Eggers. And if you guys know anything about us, we like Robert Eggers movies.
Big fan of the Egg
all
Boy.
two of them. Three of them now, but all two of them. The Witch and the famous Lighthouse.
The
Whatever you want to
Lighthouse.
say about it. The thing that has been a huge thing on this podcast.
Yeah.
One
of the
yeah.
podcast classics for sure. One of those
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
first movies. I feel like Spider-Verse and The Lighthouse and Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think are the three movies of like these are mind-blowing, like world-changing paradigm shift movies. Like those three come to mind immediately.
And so I honestly was extremely anticipating his next film. And I got really excited when we were getting word that it was a Viking movie. It was a Viking epic movie set in 800, the year 800. And so, and it was a big budget movie. It was his first foray into studio filmmaking. His
Mm-hmm.
past two have been indie films. I think The Witch was made for about $3 million. The Lighthouse is something like 10, maybe lower. I think it was around 10 or
Yeah.
lower, I think.
Yeah. Low
Both
budgets.
low budget films. And this was a 70, I think it's been reported that it's around, I think the budget for this film is around $75 million,
Damn.
which is big boy
Man.
money. That's big boy territory. Um, and there are a lot of reasons why that excites me. I mean, there's only a few filmmakers that I can hear that get a budget like that. Just hearing the budget that he has and the scope, it just gets me like just hearing that Robert Eggers, this guy who what that we'll get into, on the way that he makes movies, was getting a budget like this, you automatically kind of knew that this is going to be something special. It's going to be something that is you're gonna want to see it. You're gonna have to see it
Yeah.
because um, the way that this guy makes movies is not a lot of people are doing it the way that he's doing it right now. That's one of the reasons why he's able to get a budget like this to make a movie, and also a cast like this. This cast is stacked.
Yeah.
There are incredible, this Alexander Skarsgård, Nicole Kidman, Willem Dafoe, Ethan Hawke, um,
Bjork.
Bjork, Anya Taylor-Joy, incredible cast in this movie. And this movie fucking it rules. It rips. It's so I love this movie so much, and I have a lot to talk about with you. I think in terms of like just the movie itself, but I also maybe towards the end we can talk about what like the response to this movie is gonna be
Yeah.
because this is a movie that's getting a lot of eyes on it just because of the big budget and the studio push that this movie has. So I'm very curious about your thoughts on maybe that
Yeah.
after seeing it because um what I love so much about it, and I'm assuming that you like this too,
I
right?
did. I
Yeah,
agree. It
yeah,
fucking rules. It
yeah,
knocks my
yeah,
socks
yeah.
off.
Yeah, it's great. And I have things about it that I have reservations about, and I definitely have like things that um I don't think quite work. But I think the biggest takeaway that I have from this film is like the ambition and the like I don't give a fuck energy, radiating off this movie is just so incredible. And it's not like one of these things that's like a film that like a Gaspar Noé film that is like, I don't give a fuck about the audience and fuck you, and I'm gonna try to, you know, he's
Yes.
what I love
Yes.
about this is Robert Eggers making a studio movie. This is Robert Eggers trying to make a movie that's appealing to, a larger audience. And what happens is that he does do that, but he also is Robert Eggers and he's an amazing filmmaker, so he still has that really incredibly invented and really just awesome vision. That was something that I was a little worried about going into this, that his style was gonna be watered down, like
Yeah.
it was gonna
Right.
be um and to certain extents it is. And I can maybe get into that of like some of the things that I think I don't know. Obviously wasn't in the room when they were testing this movie or the producers, but there are a few things in this movie that I can kind of point to and say I think that was a studio note, and I think that was something that made Robert Eggers kind of put in the movie for
Mm-hmm.
more of a broader appeal. But even those things don't take away to me the beautiful just chaos and just um, poetic filmmaking that this movie is on a large scale. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So on that note, of his entry into making sort of the studio movie that's more accessible. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I was really excited by the budget for all the reasons that
Yeah,
you were explaining, but I didn't really expect him to be interested in doing a movie where he had to water down his vision just to get a big budget. Like
right.
that doesn't seem like the kind of director that Robert Eggers is. He has
Of
visions he
course,
wants
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah,
create and make, and he wouldn't
yeah.
get that unless he could do that, or at least
Yeah, he's not
mostly
going to
do that.
sign on to make, like, Elvis biopic. He's not
Right,
going to do that. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Just because it's a big budget.
And
Um,
money and
yeah,
like a paycheck. Probably. Yeah.
and I really don't think he did that, and I don't think
No,
he. For me, when I watch this movie, it's interesting because it is compared to his other films, like The Lighthouse and The Witch. It's way more grounded. It's living in a way more solid
it
reality than those other
is.
two films.
It is, but it also still has that almost, I don't even know what you would call it, maybe like magical realism or
Yeah, yeah. It's like this
surrealism
like
or
metaphysical, like philosophical, like
right,
ambiguity about like, did this
right.
really happen? Was this my perception?
And I think it's more grounded because of just the nature of the story and what this
Exactly.
movie is. And I think it's not like The Lighthouse where, believe it or not, I mean, don't, so what Robert Evans does is he makes folk tales. He makes like he's interested. He has just put out recently on some like New York Times article and was asked about, will you ever make a movie in modern times? And he goes, nope,
Yeah.
never. And like he's not interested in making movies that are set during present day. He is interested in making period pieces. He's interested in making he is a filmmaker that is obsessed with research and is obsessed with authenticity. And when we like authenticity to a degree that no one is doing. Like
Yeah.
no one is doing. And authenticity all the way to the story. It's not like, there's two parts of authenticity, I feel like. It's like if you make a period piece, it's like all the cars, all the costumes were period accurate, right?
Yeah.
But the story is still a modern story. It's still like a story that's like, you know, this is not, he takes an approach of like a, he really tries to put you in the time of Viking time, of
Yeah.
843 AD, and that's something that I think makes this movie feel like no other blockbuster or big studio movie that's out there right now. I
And
mean,
that's kind of the magic. That's why I like Mr. Egg Boy so fucking much, because
yeah,
he's so good at that. Because I don't like most period pieces, like just like bread
uh
and
huh,
butter period pieces. I like it when there's elements of period pieces incorporated, and there's always going to be like a period piece movie that's good. It happens, it's
right,
inevitable. It happens. But Robert Eggers just he what I think a lot of period pieces sort of fail is, like, on that note of authenticity, they get over obsessed about that and they forget to make a movie. They
well,
forget to make a film. But
well,
Robert Eggers never compromises the filmmaking for the
yeah,
authenticity. He brings
no,
both every
yeah,
time, which is
right,
really phenomenal. Like, I've never seen,
yeah.
like you said, this obsession with research just really goes to adding to this immersive and authentic experience of being like, this is what, like, it must have felt like to be a Viking, like in the way they talked and looked.
Immersive is the word. And even like I know that there's a lot of people out there that have seen the lighthouse, and I have friends like this that have seen it and run it off as some weird movie and just didn't get it.
Sure.
But believe it or not, the lighthouse is a period piece. It is a
Hmm.
movie that takes direct inspiration from um, sailor journals, lighthouse keeper journals, and things like this. And he cre- that movie. One of the reasons why we love it so much is it really does, on top of telling a surreal, uh, fairy tale, folk like type story, it related to these old stories of lighthouse keeping in the 1800s, but you feel like you're in that time, because it's just his attention to detail and his, immersion that he puts the audience in. He has no compromises. He's not like gonna accept. I will say that there is an element of the Northman that I do feel like it felt a little modern, but um other than like, I mean, you really do feel like the dirt, you feel the blood, you feel the savagery of this time, and I just think that the Northman is incredibly well directed.
Yeah.
It's so amazingly well shot, directed,
Yeah. Yeah.
and amazingly well shot. There are sequences and shots in this movie that
Oh
made
yeah.
my jaw drop in terms of the level of, first of all, difficulty that some of these shots are to pull off. There are a few that I'm like, I cannot believe that they did that. I mean, just for, it's not like an act. I mean, some of the action scenes in this movie are mind-blowingly amazing, but there's some, like the introduction to Omelette, the adult Omelette for the first time, is one of the most stunning and insanely difficult shots I have ever seen in my fucking life. And some people might not even think that watching it, but I could not help but think watching that. Like, I can't believe they just pulled that off. I mean, like, it's stunning, just some of the one takes in this movie and the long takes that he pulls off in this film that
Yeah.
are
And to sort of
unbelievable.
unpack that sort of from a technical perspective, like being filmmakers, you might say the devil's advocate would say, oh, well, he just has a really good film crew who could do that. It's
Well,
like,
he
yeah,
does. He 100%
that's
does.
that's true. You have to have someone who can
That's
actually
part of my
articulate
that's part
that.
of my jaw drop. I mean, it's part of the Ryan Reynolds has the vision and the idea for it, but to have a team and to pull off this insane boat shot and these stunt performers to do it, I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I just love that. You know, that's what something that I love about, like, Robert Eggers, like, he's the dictator, I guess you'd say. He creates this world of authenticity. All the actors that have worked with him have said, he's great to work with, but it's hard. He really is all about immersion to the point where he will put his actors in dirt and spray hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water on them, to get the perfect shot,
Right.
and these actors understand that that's what they're signing up for, and they understand, like, it's going to show up on screen,
Right.
because he has this incredible vision.
Right. But the point is that even when you have the technical crew who can execute those things, there's the factor of the auteur in Robert Eggers' work that you don't see in a lot of other places, where
Yeah,
you can execute a complicated shot, but you can't do it, if only Egger can do it his way.
yeah,
And
right,
that's what you see in this film with all these complicated like jaw-dropping sequences, is this, again, the vision that he's able to
yeah,
actualize through this kind of abusive process of
right,
trying to, like, sort of like similar to conversations we've had of what Stanley Kubrick would do with
yeah.
things like that,
And
with hopefully.
Coppola
Yeah.
on Apocalypse Now and things like that.
and and
Yeah,
and he seems
torturing
like,
themselves.
and it's hopefully it's not in the degree where we'll come out where people will say it's like,
Abusive.
abusive in like a
Yeah,
mentally traumatizing way, and which
right.
is what seems like most of the reports from it is more like he takes everybody on his cruise to a different universe,
Yeah,
similarly to how audience feel, like how I feel when I watch his
exactly. Right,
movies. I'm transported there,
right. Yeah, exactly. And so I guess, yeah, so I guess we'll just kind of talk about, like, kind of the story.
Yeah.
Um, so this is a very simple movie.
And I think that's the most grounded, accessible part of it, is how accessible the
The
story
story,
is.
right, 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 right. Yeah, like, how do you explain the lighthouse? Do you do that to me?
You can't, like, it's
No,
just
you
like
can't.
guys go crazy on an
It's one of
island.
those movies that you just have to see.
Yeah,
It's an
but
very
this
experiential movie. Same with
but
this movie. This movie, you really, to get the gravitas of the story, you have to experience it.
at the end of the day, it is just a revenge film.
That's
It's just a
all it is.
revenge film. Bread and
Um,
butter.
I will revenge my father, I will save my mother. That's the mantra of this film,
And that's all it is.
that's what this is. I mean, there's a lot deeper themes
There's a lot of
and
layers.
really interesting things going on. But it's through the story of one man's quest to avenge his father.
Yep.
And what this movie is, on a broad standpoint, is kind of a meditation on revenge and a meditation on just really like the human's primal nature. I got a lot of like really interesting just themes coming from kind of the towards the end of the film, that I thought were like just striking images that just invoke like this a lot of interesting
Yeah.
feelings that I
Yeah.
had. This is an action movie, it's a Viking action movie,
Yeah.
but there's a lot more going on, than just that, just pure
Yeah.
action enjoyment, which there is. They fight in a volcano at the end of the film. There's two naked men fighting to the death in a volcano, and it's awesome. But the
Yeah.
thing is, you're enjoying it on the action level, on the spectacle level, but you're also enjoying it because it's thematically rich at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, I think that Robert Eggers did a really amazing job at sort of bringing emotional relevance to all of the spectacle scenes, which
Uh-huh.
he is really good at the visual spectacle. Which I get again.
I
I think
never
that
thought that he would be this good. Because all the two previous films are not. I wouldn't call them epic in any sense of the word. I
yeah,
mean,
right,
they're very intimate films, and that's what makes them so great. But this film is a true epic, and you know, there are incredibly large and um, big set pieces in this movie, and I did not expect how good he would be at doing that.
yeah,
Like, I mean, the rain sequence, when we're introduced to Amleth, and he's the warrior, and they pillage that town.
yeah,
Unbelievable. I
yeah,
mean, that was some of the most brutal like action I've seen in a movie ever, and it was gorgeous. It was like this super long take of like him climbing the wall and just fucking ravaging this town. It was unbelievable. It reminded me of like some of my favorite big action set pieces and some period pieces, like war films and things like that. It was
yeah, yeah.
that great.
I think that was that was probably the first real jaw-dropping moment, which you got that moment in the trailer, which really always
Yeah.
got me hyped every time I saw the trailer when
Yeah,
Amleth grabs the
the
spear and
epic, yeah,
throws
yeah,
it
yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that is so which, the scene sort of breaking down what's so genius about what he's doing there is, for one, the authenticity of the setup, right? The historical like
Uh-huh.
coolness about like Vikings and how it would actually look. Two, the visual spectacle of it, but then three, the creativity of the idea, the
Yeah.
idea to do it, of like showing him throwing the spear back, which maybe they could do that, it's a little superhuman, but
Uh-huh.
like you're in it, you believe it. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe they did do that, which is awesome.
Right.
But like, and also the idea of showing him climbing the wall, like those decisions of how you execute that is so it's really creative.
Yeah.
It's not like just like pretentious, like I'm gonna show
Yeah.
Vikings. It's like real, like actual fun filmmaking, just
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
really
That's
fun.
something that like I love about this movie. And like I guess like I also want to talk about like the setup of the movie, because I think it's really cool. And
I was a
like,
little worried that the setup was going to be slow, but I was really happy that
no,
they
they get like
did it
right
really
into it.
well.
They get right into it.
And it's really snappy and cool.
And it gets you in I think it really, what it's really important is like it obviously is important to set up, obviously the death of, Agnes' father, Ethan Hawke. Um, Ethan Hawke himself. Ethan was alive in the 800. No, and but what that the first scene does is really sets up what were the actual tone of this movie. It's not going to. I knew from the get go that it was going to take um like the dialogue. Oh God, the writing of this movie. There are things about it. There are some things that were felt a little like um I don't even know like his okay. Robert Eggers' writing style, I I love it. It is like it's super Shakespearean and it's very like theatric and operatic in that way.
Yeah, he's so
And that's the way
theatrical.
that he writes. Like I think The Lighthouse, I mean if you guys love Lighthouse, watch it with subtitles and it will blow your fucking mind. Like like not saying that you can it's just beautiful writing.
Hmm.
Like it's gorgeous writing. Like just reading it is it's like Shakespeare. It really is. And this movie has I don't think it's throughout beautiful poetic uh like lines and poetry like in the lighthouse, but there are just unbelievable lines and the dialogue never there were times where it did pull me out a little bit. And that's just because maybe the simplicity of it
Hmm.
sometimes where but it is Viking time. So it is the language is not as, you know, beautiful. It's super blunt, and that's
Yeah,
how they most likely spoke in the 1800s.
yeah, that was something I mostly noticed that at the very beginning scenes when
Yeah,
we were introducing that.
yeah,
That dialogue dump when we're kind of getting into that, that was like it almost felt it felt kind of fake or performed to me
yeah,
as opposed to like immersive. But then
right,
after everything after that, I was pretty much in the
uh-huh,
whole time through it because we really got into like the story of it.
right.
And the
Well, it
thing,
also like it gets you that's part of the vibe of the movie, and
right.
like that's something that I think about Robert Evans' work that I think uh may not click with a lot of people. Like that's
Yeah,
something about his work
definitely.
that is odd. His characters they speak in a particular way. All I can really describe is it is very theatrical. He's
Right.
very um I think I kind of thought I think I said like to my buddy, it's like it has this the performances also add to that. There are these very theatrical uh performances which reminded me a lot of the lighthouse. It's one of the reasons the lighthouse is so like really engaging. It has this vibe that is unlike any movie. Is Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson's performance in that movie are very operatic and very theatrical. They're
Yeah,
very
yeah.
like they're giving a performance. There's
Right.
no subtlety, It's
Yeah.
and there are subtleties. I'm not saying Alexander Skarsgård is unbelievably fantastic in this movie, and but there are subtleties to his performance. I'm not
Right.
saying that there it's like but
Well, yeah, I mean, Eggers sort of he blends theater and film acting styles
yeah,
together in his movies, and I think to
which reminds me a
people,
lot of the Ingmar Bergman. If you watch
yeah,
some of his
yeah,
films, like
yeah,
they
I
have a
think
lot
that's
of that quality, which I
to-
love. I think it's really cool.
and I think when you first see that and you're not prepared for it, it comes off as being maybe a little bit goofy or just weird. It's just
Yes,
like, what are they
right.
doing? It's like,
And
why do they look like that?
I think that's fair. I honestly like if
Yeah.
you find it goofy and you just can't get into it, I get it. I get it. It's just this is all I can really just say is that I'm really immersed in it. It just
Right.
works for me.
Well, I think the thing is that we're just so trained with modern movies that the way of
Uh-huh.
how what we're expected to learn from things, or what how there's a way that we expect to consume a movie, or how a
Yeah,
movie is to
right.
relay information to us. There's a certain way that we're used to people acting on film and talking, and I think the talking thing is a really important point for his movies because a lot of times the shit that the characters are actually saying in all his films, I don't quite understand. but I always
Uh-huh.
feel their meaning, and I visually am able to pick
No,
up their
yeah.
story
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
throughout that, which I think is a really important point that a lot of other directors can learn from that,
Yeah.
where he really does something innovative with the dialogue. It really adds to it
Well,
in a
his
way that I don't
dialogue
think
is it's beautiful. It's
so
beautiful
beautiful.
writing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like if you really are paying attention to what they're saying,
yeah,
like there are times in this movie where there are multiple times where I would assume an end, and I'm like, that was like, oh fuck. I mean, like just the way that he's able to um create this rhythm and this poetry with his characters and the the he's able to like write such beautiful writing that makes the themes so like so easy to get and
right,
digestible. And this film doesn't have like the mystery behind it like something like The Lighthouse does. Purposely, The Lighthouse has this mystery to it. This like what is this about? Like
yeah, yeah,
this movie is very it has a this is what this is about,
right, right, right,
and which is, great, but just the way that it's translated to the audience is so perfect. It's not overly corny. It's not like preaching to you. It's perfect. It's in line with the characters. There's not a character that just comes out and just has a whole monologue explaining, here's the power of revenge. Like
yeah,
it's not, but there is that in the movie. If you really break down, the lines and the characters, like you would come to the conclusion that what he's trying to say, about the human, you know, um, tendency to avenge, which
right.
is really interesting.
I think it's like, if I think about it sort of like this transition of art styles that we've gone through, where like in comparison to realistic like Renaissance art versus something like Van Gogh or something like that. And
Yeah.
like we appreciate Van Gogh as a genius now, but the response to that was really bad at first, because what people would say is just like, it doesn't look like that. Flowers or skies don't look like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not
yeah,
how
yeah.
they look.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's not the point of what Van Gogh was trying to
Right.
convey with his paintings. And we get that now, but it took us a while to adjust from that.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of the innovation that he's worked that Eggers is really interested in, sort of working in this playing
Or
field.
bringing back in a way,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the lines are not defined. It's
Yeah.
expressionistic, it's
Right.
more it's experiential and very emotional, and but the
Yeah.
meaning is still very concrete. It's
Yeah.
not like
Right.
fluid and in the clouds. It's like he's
Right.
he's working with something very specific here,
Right.
but it's just not something that you're supposed to see as defined as like a
Exactly.
Marvel movie or something like that.
Yeah, and like I think it's just incredible that this came out theaters, and
Yeah.
and large audiences are seeing it, which is just cool. Um, but so after that opening scene, we get the death of his father, which is like pretty brutal scene, pretty
Pretty
impactful
dope.
scene,
If you ask
pretty
me, pretty
dope
dope.
scene. Um, Actually, okay, I knew before I have to talk about this scene. This is what I knew that the first moment that made my jaw drop in this movie was so Ethan Hawke, the king, arrives, and so they get there, and we meet Willem Dafoe's character, who is the fool, who I thought was absolutely amazing in this movie. I thought he was incredible. His like 2, 3 scenes, just it's Willem Dafoe. I mean, there's no eyebrow. He looks insane on this movie. There's
Yeah.
like no eyebrows. He looks crazy. Um, but there's a moment um, where and this is like something. This is another thing scene that I love that this is in this movie and very early. They Ethan Hawke brings his son and they're acting like wolves, and they're
Yeah.
like like a roar like a wolf, and like it's really it's not like some audiences ever like laugh at that because it's so. But what I love about this movie is that it takes it is this is everything to the Viking people. This is you know we'll get into the magical realism part, it's not presented that it's surreal or anything. That's why I hesitate to call it surrealism, because Obelisk is, he believes a lot of the things that he's seeing, you know, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
crow, the witch, the Valkyrie, all these things. He believes it because they believed all these things. This isn't like, it's not like, what I'm trying to say? Like it's
Absolutely.
presented in a way that is completely grounded and doesn't even, there's no judgment. The film isn't like, you know, look silly guys that used to act like animals, like they thought they were the spirit of the wolves. It's like, no, this is what we're in Viking time, you know? He's so non-judgmental about like the stuff that even in the witch, like that was something about the witch that grabbed so many people. Is the way that the characters spoke, the way that they it was so authentic and there's no judgment. He's not including his biases in a weird way
Yeah.
of what the time was like.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
in that,
that's kind of just a quick note on the way you used authentic there, because I think it's really interesting, because that's kind of a different type of authenticity,
yes,
the historical authenticity. It's more
yes,
like authenticity to the characters, like how you're authentic to yourself,
yes.
which is a
That is the
really,
major difference, I
yeah,
think, that what you were saying about earlier about not enjoying period pieces, that's why. It's
yeah,
because they're not.
absolutely.
And that's super difficult to do. That's not fucking easy. This
Yeah, it's
guy,
really hard.
he's obsessed with research. I was reading, there were the top Viking historical people in the world work on this movie. I mean, like
Wow, that's
all of
awesome.
like every um ship, every weapon, every is literally to the T of what it was like in the 1800s, in the 800s, 1800s, in the 800s. It was so accurate that I read that, it drove some of the production guys kind of insane, because Eggers was like so particular about, like, I saw an interview with Eggers where he was like asked about, was there anything that you were disappointed that you couldn't, because there's not a lot of research. There's not a lot of, it's hard to research Viking culture, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I mean, he literally says, he goes, there's a couple helmets that I'm not proud of. I mean, that's the type of guy he
Oh,
is.
that's so
He
awesome.
goes, there's a couple helmets I am not proud of.
That's awesome.
Because he literally, then he goes, he's like, yeah, like this type of warrior, there's not a lot of research about what they would wear. So we kind of had to make an educated guess on what they would wear. Like,
That's
dude, that's what
awesome.
everybody knows. Like, it's like, but but in that beginning scene when it's introduced to, which is a big part of the movie, his inner wolf, right? That he, I don't quite know, but I think they maybe believe that they reincarnate into wolves, or they feel like they're a wolf in their past life or
Yeah.
their future life, or you know something like that. It's not really explained, but doesn't need to be. Um, but that scene where they go into the cave
Yeah,
and
dude.
it's revealed this family tree, this surreal, this Ethan Hawke basically tells him like, um, who you are. He tells him like, you're the blood of, I forget what I
Like
don't
blood
know
of
that it's
kings. Yeah,
crazy. And
you're
all
the
the
heir.
names, the words, it's all crazy. The fact that I even remember an omelet is like
A gift.
is a miracle. But that fucking scene where he puts his hand on his chest and it go like the camera goes into him and it's like this surreal, like blue, like almost reminded me of like the Pandora tree in Avatar. It had this like,
Yeah.
and it was like visual effects, which is another thing that I'm gonna. There's visual effects in this movie. There's
Which, yeah, it was just
CGI,
new,
and
totally new for him.
it's really cool. Like it's
Yeah.
really awesome how he used visual effects in this movie. Um, and yeah, that was the moment where I dropped like jaw dropped and I said, yes. Like
Yeah.
I'm so happy that he's this is the way that we're going. You know, he's telling a fantastical Viking folk tale and using cinema to invoke, you know, these feelings that the Viking people had, you know, and just that image, you know, that recurs throughout the film of like, you know, Amleth's family tree and what it means to be who he is, who a prince, you know.
Yeah.
I thought that scene was just great and
Yeah,
just
that
really
was
set up the vibe and the rest of the film, you know.
100%. That was really what got me hooked to that scene because, like how I mentioned earlier, I was had my doubts at the initial on the out front because it felt like maybe stiff, I guess.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then
yeah.
when I got there, and I imagine when I watch this again, I'll be more in it
God, I'm gonna
from
see
the
this
start.
again.
But that scene really, I really felt it. I was really in it from that point onward, which I
Uh-huh.
think is the function of that scene. Really prepares you for what the movie is, like you said.
Yes.
And in that scene too, um, the thing I really like about directors who are really making movies, like real fucking movies, is this effort to do camera work and film work that is actually tangible, that you really experience. And the
Uh-huh.
distinction to that is more invisible, is the distinction of invisible editing versus sort of like feeling the camera work or feeling the cuts
Yeah.
and things like that. Because there's a, it's usually the goal of more wider audience general type movies for wide audiences that you don't notice, like when a film cuts, it just feels like you're watching people
Uh-huh.
do
Yeah,
stuff, you
yeah,
know, you
yeah,
don't
yeah.
notice the cuts, you don't notice
Right.
the camera work. But I really like it when that's when there's more attention driven to that art form, the craft. And the example I can think of from that scene is when they're tripping out on that weird water that Willem Dafoe's character gave
Right.
him.
Yeah.
And
I think
and
it's mushrooms.
there's the shot where Amleth is like tripping out, and
Oh,
then his
incredible.
vision, and it sort of
Yeah.
like tilts
Amazing.
down, and you
Yes.
see
Yeah.
his leg, and it like spins out. That transition is like, that was
Unbelievably great.
awesome. And
Yeah.
you feel that, so he's so
Yes.
good at doing that, where you have these cuts and the combination of the sound design and the way the camera moves, it like it,
Yeah.
you feel your body like
Yeah. I mean,
experience that shot.
that's something about like, yeah. I mean, that's what I love about filmmaking.
Yeah.
You know, when Robert Eggers is a filmmaker that, and this is why some people look at it like The Lighthouse or The Witch. He controls your body. He
Yeah.
wants to literally, like, with the visual language of the movie, make you feel something. You
Yeah.
know, he's not like, all right, let's cut this to tell the story. And there are parts of this that I do feel that. I don't think that
Mm-hmm.
this whole movie is like um perfect in that way. There are times where the scenes and the cuts like do feel like, all right, we gotta get to this part of the story. Most notably when they're at the farm, at the camp, in the second, the majority of this film when he is, as a slave and
Yeah.
he's,
I think I know what you mean.
um but but no, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think you're out like it just you feel it so much, and like um yeah, like also the transition of like when we see Ethan Hawke get killed, it's revealed as his brother. I don't know who that actor is who plays his
Yeah,
uncle.
he was
Awesome.
phenomenal.
He's an awesome actor.
I've never seen him
Never
before.
I don't think I've seen him before. I didn't really look up, but he's great in this movie. And I read this interesting thing where there's a part of this movie or there is a version of this movie that's told from his perspective, you know, which I
Whoa.
thought, which is really a good testament to how well realized his character like turned out, because he's a very, very obviously extremely important character in the film. He's the villain of the movie. The villain, I say villain in quotes because uh, Vikings. Everybody's
Right.
brutal, and everybody hates everything, and just there's no real antagonist. I guess you would say, Nicole Kidman, maybe his mother is the real antagonist, or whatever. That's what I love. That's one of the reasons this film works so well is that morals and it's not black and white. It's
Right.
very and that's That was the only way that the story would even work, you know. Um, Laurels were not a thing in 1843. They didn't think like, you know, they did, but they also didn't. Um,
Yeah, well,
they
that was something about the film I thought was, because I don't think a lot of directors would choose to do that. I think the safer route would
definitely
be
not.
to go with making Amleth the hero, you know, making his
Right.
actions be what's rootable and make the uncle be the bad guy. But by the end of the movie, you're like, I'm glad that Amleth killed Fang the uncle. Like,
Right.
I'm happy about it. But I'm also a little conflicted because Amleth also murdered
Well,
his
yeah.
whole family. He
Yeah, yeah,
murdered
yeah, yeah,
kids,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like,
Right.
and he did very, I still like, you question your morals and you
Well,
don't
that's
really
like,
know
you know,
who's
one of my
good and who's
favorite
bad.
lines in this movie is, I don't know the exact wording, but he says something like, you know, um, he says something like, you know, I could either, like, he has this vision of the tree, and he's, you know, when he's told that he has kids, he's told, I have to protect you and I have to protect these kids, and I'm going to do
Yeah.
anything in my power to do that.
Is
Meaning,
is that
I have to
the
kill my uncle. You know?
is it was the line, you have to choose between love for your kin or
Yeah,
hate for your enemies?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Which is a
Yeah.
beautiful line.
Yeah.
And
Which is
that to me is like,
an
you know,
iconic folklore thing to say,
right,
but in a very new and awesome way.
right. And like, you know, I thought like, um, just the introduction to Alexander Skarsgård as okay, this guy, his workout regimen. Oh my God, dude!
He was
Like
sculpted.
he is
He looks,
ripped
he's
in this
so
movie.
ripped.
His fucking traps, holy God!
Yeah.
Like you know,
Yeah.
he's not even like if you see like what he looks like now. He's a very skinny guy. He's a very lanky guy. I'm like, how did you transform to that? Like, oh my God!
Yeah. I love how in his performance, kind of just talking about Amleth for a second,
Yeah,
that he would do this thing where he would hunch, you know, he would extend his
yeah,
neck forward, which was
right,
so dope and creepy, which really goes into this layer of, in the scene that it sets up where they're acting like wolves. There's also this
yeah,
theme throughout of sort of the wolfman or the beast
yeah,
in of the person, because Amleth is really described as being, you know, a wolf in sheep's clothing, or actually a man who's like, you're not a man, you're a beast, you're a beast.
mhm,
And that again, a very classic theme
yeah.
that is interwoven in a very, you know, a subtle and
And that's
amazing kind of
part of
way.
his really good performance. You're right. It's
Right.
like he's acting like an animal. You know, he's acting like a beast. You know, or a wolf. You know, and sticking his neck out, almost like, you know, sniffing his prey. You know, and things like
Yeah,
that.
he looks fucking scary.
Yeah, it's which is like what needed to happen. You know, that's what
Yeah,
needed.
totally.
Which was but I also just love like this is so subtle and nitpicky, but I love that, you know, Alice was given this necklace as a kid, and how we, I'm not talking about that fucking shot when it's introduced to adult Alice and they're rowing on on the boat, and the camera just starts in well, it starts like in the water, and then it like
Yeah.
pushes in, and again, I'm watching this, and like, how are they doing this? Like, there must be a giant fucking crane on a
Yeah.
boat. Like, and they probably were like, all right, we have two times, and then we can't do this again. And like, it's crazy the level of, you know, just, I don't even know. It's hard. But what I love is that if you didn't see a trailer or anything, you know, you didn't know Alexander Skarsgård was the lead character in the movie. What's great is when you start on the boat and all of those guys are rowing, you see you still have the necklace, and it pushes in, and there's no like, you know, it's very subtle filmmaking. It's like this is the same guy, this is the same necklace, this is him older, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, using the art of visual montage to
right,
communicate what you need to communicate.
right,
And you know, I mentioning that point of, if you hadn't seen the trailer, I kind of wish that I hadn't seen the trailer in a lot of ways. I think that the Northman's trailer is one of the best trailers I've seen in a long
I don't
time.
really feel that honestly, but
I love the trailer.
no,
I
I mean I
thought
love the trailer, but I don't
oh
feel like I didn't feel. I mean, I wish I didn't see a lot of the pillage sequence. Like I wish I didn't
yeah.
see that. Um, because that was just like
I didn't feel spoiled, but like
yeah.
that moment that you're talking about, I thought about that. It's like, oh, I wish I could have not known
Oh,
and
I guess
seen
I
what
just
that had
forgot.
felt like
I just
that.
forgot.
Yeah, but that moment of like being on the boat, I wish I could
Yeah,
have like
sure.
discovered that he would have grown up. But that's like, again, how can
Yeah,
you really, you can't, that's
right.
something that will be fun on a rewatch and
Just
for people who
marketing.
watch this and watch this sort of in the
Right.
future.
And yeah, like that whole introduction to him where we learn that he's a warrior and like again, we keep calling it that pillage sequence is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's just I can't believe it. It's so brutal. And after that, we get fucking York,
Mhm.
who I'm a big fucking York fan, been a fan for a while. Her music, she hasn't been in a movie in a long time. And this is the movie that brought her back to acting. And she's awesome. She has this scene that is so great. And I really wish I had more of her character. I also read that they shot a lot more with her and that might be some deleted scenes with more of her character. I think, in retrospect, I think she's in the movie the perfect amount, just the way that
Yeah.
these almost reminded me a lot of the Green Knight, these trials or these you know surreal um you know I don't even know what you call it, like revelations that he has,
Mhm.
on his journey. And that York is the first one, other than, the family tree, but her being this witch, or whatever. Like, I think I don't know if she refers to herself as a witch, but she's like supposed to be like a magical being. And she tells him, you know, she sends him back on his path, the path that he needs to be on,
Yeah,
which
she
is
she tells him
revenge,
his fate. Yeah, his
right? His
fate.
fate. And yeah, and so he realizes that that's what he needs to do. He gets on the boat, the slave boat, meets Anya Taylor-Joy's character, who we haven't even mentioned yet,
Yeah.
who is Olga.
Olga. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I just looked it up. That's right.
And um, I mean, Anya Taylor-Joy it's crazy because her we were all introduced to her by the witch. The
Mhm.
witch was I'm pretty sure her debut film, and she's a movie star now.
Yeah.
Like, and what's cool is, it's just cool to see Robert Eggers and her working together again, for one. And I hope that they make more movies together because I don't know what it is, but she just gets it. Like
Yeah, she
her,
fits in there so
she
perfectly.
is fantastic in this movie. I loved her performance in this movie. And there's parts of her character that I didn't love, but her performance was just amazing.
Yeah.
And I thought that she brought this level of, because a lot of the characters in this movie I wouldn't say that they're, I don't know, sympathetic people,
Yeah.
or empathetic people. And Olga is a much needed, like, female presence, first of all. We have Nicole Kidman, but you know, most of the movie is very manly movie, very muscular, and just blood-soaked movie. But her character brought so much more like levity, and like it really felt that. There's times in movies where characters come in and really change the vibe of the movie, and she really did that. That's how great I thought her performance was in this movie, where
Yeah.
she really brought this movie to a different level. This uh, more interesting thematic level to me.
Yeah.
And part
Yeah.
of it is her character, but her performance was just really fantastic, I thought.
I thought, yeah, that factor about the only criticism I could think, which again, I still think this works just fine in the execution of the film, is the relationship between them. It just sort of
Yes.
stumbles into that and just says they're in a relationship
You
instead of
ding
it.
ding ding ding. I think that is the studio note. I
Yeah,
think that um I just don't know if that was either, and I don't know if like the romance just seemed like what, like it just seemed like so out of character first of all for Olive to even like do that, like
yeah.
it works in the movie, and I think like um but it did feel out of character.
Yeah, and there's a lot of funny scenes where Amleth is like, and then
Yeah,
Anya Taylor-Joy's character is like, "Oh, my sweet loving man, I
right.
can't breathe," and it's like that's a little weird,
Did
but
I
it's
love the
also
sex scene? Yes. But I also just the way it was shot was like, I love this.
that was the best way
So
to shoot a sex scene. It's
yeah,
like
it was
most of this, they're
incredible.
just like a
Yeah,
little small like lump of
it
flesh
was
on this in this
amazing. Yeah,
moonlit
yeah, it
forest.
was
So
incredible.
beautiful.
Um,
But I will say about the relationship, although it just sort of like stumbled into it, I love the characters so much, and they
well,
had a
right.
they had a synergy to them that it was like I'm so happy
Well,
that they're working together.
I think so, but I think it would have been like if they didn't have a sexual relationship or romantic, it still would have worked because she's a Valkyrie. She's revealed to be, a Valkyrie. So I think that was just enough. Because Valkyrie, it's almost she was an angel of some sort.
Yeah,
And I thought that like I guess like that's why I think it's like doesn't it's not that bad like the relationship and the romance, but it does feel like out of character. Like
yeah,
Alice will not be like, I love this woman.
yeah. It's one of those things. It's
Okay.
one of those things that I think is like, I think that could have worked because you had two characters who could have and actors who could have pulled that off, but it was unexplored and felt a little shallow.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Uh,
I thought it did seem like we need to have some kind of relationship in this movie, some
yeah,
kind of romance for some people to like, what,
grab
what,
on.
what studios do is they are um poor studio, which obviously the producers on this movie, I they let him do what
Yeah,
which is great for the most part, and either Robert Eggers has said like, there are things that they told me and like that helped the film, like it's not like, you know, um and but I think in that regard, and I don't even know if that was a studio though. I don't know, but it
right,
just felt
right.
that way to me. It might have been written, but Eggers, maybe that was Eggers' idea. I don't know, but
Yeah, that's kind of
um,
interesting. It makes me feel it's interesting that's sort of that was true for both of us.
yeah,
And I'm curious how rewatching the film how that will
yeah, that's
feel,
true. Yeah, yeah,
because again, at the end of the day, the characters are still really fun within the
yeah,
context of the story, so it didn't really bother me too
right.
much. It's just like compared to like the depth of the rest of the
Yeah,
film, it
yeah, yeah.
just sticks out a little bit.
Well,
It
it
just
also
sticks out.
feels super movie. Like,
Yeah.
like the rest of it is so authentic and yeah, theatrical in a way, but it's so brutal and grounded in the way that it treats its characters, and it's like and the landscapes and everything that this feels like. I don't know. Like, it doesn't fit the vibe of the movie,
Right, right, right,
But
right.
that was the only real issue I had with the movie. But
Yeah. But
um,
that so this next sequence I really wanted to get back on, I wanted
the
to
big
mention,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the big part of him being on the farm. I wanted to
Yeah.
mention the creativity in filmmaking again, because this idea to do this type of thing, like there's a lot of ways, there's an infinite amount of ways that you can write a revenge film. It's a classical storyline, but this idea of him posturing as a slave,
Yeah,
the strategy behind it, and then
right.
him like, it's so cool because
That was
Amleth
really
is
surprising. I did not think that was the way that the movie was going to
I
go.
didn't either. I thought that
Yeah,
was so fun and cool because Amleth
right.
is the berserker character, but he's
Yeah,
not the mindless berserker character. He's very smart, and that's so
right.
cool to see,
Yeah.
and how he sort of navigates that and outsmarts and out tactics
And what I
these
liked about
people.
that too, and like what I think one of the things that I don't know, I can see like turn off some, audience members is like during this whole, he does have multiple surreal experiences, and like one of my favorite shots, like scenes in the movies when um, a crow, like the crows and the birds, and how kind of funny they're rendered. Just like he likes animals. Robert Eggers loves animals being possessed or maybe being possessed.
Yeah.
Black
Yeah.
Phillip, the
Yep.
the gull, you
The
know,
goal.
and the bird in this and the crow in this movie.
And it's a massive thing in folklore in our history of like
Yes,
of
yes,
like humans' experiences of imposing deities into these bodies of
yeah,
animals.
especially in the film in the time periods that he's been writing the film,
Yeah, yeah,
like
absolutely.
in all three of them,
And
and
the
probably
crow
even more
specific.
so in this film.
Yeah, and the crow, where that I think like the complaint might be about it being just sort of like weird or a Deus ex machina, but
Yeah,
like the crow symbology is very interwoven into the film
exactly, right.
because the Bjork
It's not
character
just a
is
moment.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's not just an excuse to get him out
yeah,
because Bjork's character is the crow witch. She's referred to as
right,
that. Her dad is his dad is referred to as the Raven King.
right,
His lineage is of the Raven King. There's themes of Odin, who is
yeah,
the Raven King of gods,
yeah, right.
so like this is the theme within this.
That's
it's
what
it's weird,
that's
but
what
it's
I'm
a
saying.
theme. It's built in.
It's weird, but back to the authenticity thing. This is what they believe. This is what
Yeah.
Vikings believe, and so it's presenting it like they believe it and selling it. And it's not like, that's what makes this film so fucking cool.
And
It really is like, I'm a Viking, I feel like I'm a
yeah,
Viking,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is,
totally.
which is like what you want when you make a period piece. You want to like
Yeah.
transport your audience to a time period, right?
Yeah, yeah. And sort of on note about the surreal moments again, I just had the thought of
I
comparing
love
this to the
all
to,
of
I feel like the way that he treats like the surrealism and the mystical, the magical realism stuff, if we've been
yeah,
calling it, is similar to how it's treated in The Shining, where it's playing it
sure,
along the
yeah,
lines of everything that happens, you have like the witch, the crows
yeah,
saving him, the seance experiences, fighting
yeah,
the zombie giant, all of those
right.
things. Like you could say that those actually happened, or
No,
maybe they were just his perception, like
well,
his warped
it's
perception.
real to him.
Yeah, yeah,
And like
but
it's
like
not presented in a way. There's not a scene where like um he's like, "Oh, did you see that?" to like another character or something, and they're like, "No, I didn't see it." Like it's real to him.
and
And
that's all that's needed. It doesn't
that's
have to
why I
be
hesitate to call
known.
it surrealism, because
Right.
it's not um like the fight that he has to get the sword, which is I just
Awesome.
oh my god, just any movie where they're like like when she was explaining the sword and like I was like I'm in love with this movie. Anything
Yeah.
where they're like a weapon that you have to like fight for or like an ancient weapon. I'm
Yeah,
just
me too,
yes,
man. I'm in 100%.
wacky and like it's amazing. And but that scene, he fights it and he gets it, and it's not presented like no, that's what happened. That's what that's what it's not like it's not the audience is supposed to be like, did that happen or no, it happened. It
Yeah.
happened to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's
That's
like
a that's
I
a
love it.
the comparison to The Shining would be like the scene when
I
Jack
think that's a good comparison.
is stuck in the freezer and the
Yeah,
door opens up, right? You can
right.
say you can guess that Ghost did that, but you don't know. You don't know how he got
Right.
out, and
Well
the
that's just
characters don't
so
know. It's not important.
it's different. The difference in the Shining is that it's presented to be you're supposed to be um creeped out by it and turned out and although like the mysterious aspect to it. But you're right though that everything that happens in the movie, like the twins appearing in the hallway to wow, Danny, holy shit,
Yeah.
um are real to him. And they're
Yeah.
not like there's not a scene where I don't know, a scene where he like go like again brings a character and it's like, do you see them? You know, it's like, no, he saw that and he believes it, you know, and that was real, you know,
Yeah.
and this is the same thing.
Yeah, it's this phrase that I hear a lot of times. You hear it in horror films, in association with horror films, but I think it's also very relevant here to this concept of happenings happening.
Yeah,
Something just
yeah,
happens and you experience it and the characters experience it.
yeah,
And that's the kind of shit that's how I felt like when I was watching like those moments in
yeah.
this. It's like they're happenings. They're
Right.
these
And
events.
if you want more knowledge on that, go watch The Happening. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's what that movie's about.
Right.
We don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, win.
Bunch of
That's
unexplainable things that just happen.
Yeah, if you want a movie as good as The
Yeah,
Northman, watch The Happening. Yeah,
yeah.
executed in the cream of the crop
Um,
filmmaking.
yeah, and then and what else? I mean, oh yeah, I guess I also want to talk about kind of more towards that farm sequence
Hmm.
where it's great. The whole mystery and the intrigue of like what you know he's planning on what he has to do and to kill his uncle and things like that. And what I love about the movie too is that it it's it's not just concerned with Olive. They show his mother. They show their relationship. She's with his brother now, and it doesn't. And also when Olive kills, almost like for a warning, like starts murdering people, they presented like some other filmmaker, if Olive was the hero, would shoot the villain like discovering this thing in a different way. Like they would
Hmm.
shoot it in a way that's like, yes, like fuck this guy, you know? But the way that Eggers shoots this scene of um, you know, him seeing these mangled dead bodies, it's really emotional. Like you feel for him because he obviously cares for these people, and
Yeah.
it's presented like I said. There's no judgment involved in this movie. He's not like there's no protagonist, there's no antagonist, and it's um and that's kind of like back to the romance thing that maybe is a little bit of an issue. Again, another kind of thing, an issue with the moral ambiguity because that kind of makes you be like, okay, so Olive is clearly the protagonist here. He has kids that he has to care for now, which is I think ultimately a good plot point, but the romance kind of makes you more sympathetic than I think the film should be. Like I think it
Yeah.
should be a
Yeah.
little
That's a
bit
good point.
more observatory, rather than like, and I think that might have been something that the studio were like, we need Obelisk to be, and I get it, to be more of a character that you root for,
Right.
which this film, you do root for Obelisk, but you also are, like you said, like earlier, like by the end, you're kind of like well, that's revenge, that's kind of like the beautiful statement that this movie makes about, revenge is, uh, it's there's nothing to it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
empty.
Right. They
Um,
say they say in the film that
right,
hate begets hate. Hate begets hate.
right.
Um.
And so I think, but like I loved that. I love that they did it. They really he cared about the other characters in the movie.
Right,
And,
right. So like on the that's a really great point about the ambiguity of that scene and how it was presented. Not just being, it's not presented as the good murdering the bad. It's
yeah,
not
right,
just Captain America killing the Nazis. That's not
exactly,
what we're
right.
doing here. Um,
No,
but he also has this layer of really effective storytelling because it never derails us for being invested in Omlis' quest. You
exactly,
always,
right,
it's like I'm invested in seeing this man's journey all the way to the end, regardless of the moral outcome of it. I'm
yeah,
invested in this hero, right?
yeah.
This protagonist.
And I
But
think that's part of because of that opening scene because we watch a kid's a young boy's father get murdered,
Mm-hmm.
and like so you kind of grow an attachment to Amleth as a character because the previous history that we have.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and we just sort of like know what he has to do already.
yeah,
We are we're
right,
we're we're locked into that. But the humanizing of the uncle and his children, even though they're
yeah,
not necessarily thought of, it's not like the evil of them is more objectively evil than the evil things that Amleth is doing. We're just really invested in what Amleth is doing. It's just like I want him to win because I like him because
right.
I know his history,
Well,
But
that's
if
what
we
I
knew,
said like earlier, where it's almost like what I love is that this movie is the story of this movie is happening. This movie just decided to point the camera at Olive.
Mhm.
Like this movie, like you could tell this movie from the uncle's perspective. There's a movie
100%.
out there where you could do that, and that's just because like it's a whole story, and we just happen to be looking at it through Oglet's perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
Therefore,
I
and we
remember.
might feel sympathy if we follow the uncle. We might learn more about why he murdered his brother and why he, you know what I mean. So
Yeah,
you kind of get like, that's what's so great about Viking, setting a movie in Viking time because
and
it's
that
so savage and brutal that you can kind of like there's so much rich story there, and
yeah,
character.
and I mean, in addition to that, it's just the reality of how our world actually exists. There's more
Yeah,
more
yeah,
likely there's going to be
yep,
shades of gray of morality as opposed to the
exactly.
objective bad or the objective wrong. And
Right.
sort of positioning, throwing us in that moral soup, that ambiguous moral soup is what was so cool about the Nicole Kidman scene, which
Dude.
was a
Yeah.
very weird scene, that I still
She
don't.
killed it in that scene.
Yeah, the way he
I
looked.
thought that she killed it in that
Yeah,
scene.
yeah,
Thought she
yeah.
was incredible.
And I loved because you kind of, from the beginning, I kind of knew that she was something
Sure.
was up with her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I got that right at the beginning of the movie,
Right.
which I didn't feel like was like, oh, this, I saw this coming. It was
Uh-huh.
like you just knew that the full picture, you didn't have the full picture with her.
Right.
And that scene was really cool because also in her explanation, it wasn't like a twist. It wasn't like
Yeah.
trying to yank you out of this reality and believe something else. It
Right.
was like she was manipulating the situation and you don't know what's true anymore. So she just muddled the
Yeah.
truth.
Right.
She was it dissolved his resolve. And it's just like,
Right.
oh my, and like you said earlier, maybe she was the villain because maybe she
Yeah.
manipulated the uncle who seems
Right.
kind of like a respectable guy, kind
Uh-huh.
of a fucking asshat and a murderer and a
Right. Well,
rapist,
she
all
was
these
almost.
things. But so is Omelette, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, but she seems like to be the person who's really like
He's not a
doing the
rapist.
convince.
He says in the movie he's not a rapist. He
Yeah,
goes, I'll never hurt a woman.
yeah,
He says something like that.
yeah. But the mom character is really interesting, and and that she's left ambiguous, which I think is really interesting because it's just
Yeah.
like how much of her influence went into this,
Right.
the brotherly murder and
Right.
this whole
Which
problem happening.
again, like that's like you're right. It's so interesting because what if we were telling it from, the uncle's perspective? It would be completely different. We would have a completely different, look on her character, and we see it, yeah, I love it. The mystery of her is so great. Like,
Yeah,
and yeah, you're right. You don't know what's true and what's not true because she's manipulating the situation. You're right, and it's like a cool twist, and it gave Nicole Kidman a fucking hell of a monologue to recite, and just fucking bizarre scene. You know what's super weird too? This is such a not really related to the movie a little bit, but it was a little strange. That Nicole Kidman and Alexander Skarsgård were mother and son
hmm,
because there's a show called Big Little Lies on HBO that it's a really great show. The first season was really great, and their husband and wife in that movie in
oh
that show,
funny.
and Alexander Skarsgård is an abusive husband to Nicole Kidman's character. That's like the
Oh,
dynamic.
interesting.
So it was really weird to see like her, and there's a lot of crazy sex scenes in that, and really hard to watch sex scenes and Little Lies. So it's just so it was like I kept reminding like I love that they're mother and daughter in this and mother and son in this movie.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's funny, but
That was probably a smart. I wonder if that was like a casting decision to sort of.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
that was probably a convenience happening because they had experience of how to sort of
Yes, well,
dwell in that kind
I
of
think I saw the
relationship.
full thing and talk about that. Where like it helped it helped that particular scene because they just were like, they'd work together, a lot. So, and really tough scenes together. So
Yeah.
they just have this bond. I think that's probably part of the casting, I would assume, because
Yeah.
Alexander Skarsgård is a producer on this movie. He was one of the
Mm.
reasons that this movie got made.
Oh,
He
that's
was
dope.
he was one of the people that really wanted to make this movie. Um,
You can
and so yeah,
tell.
he
You can tell
probably
how passionate he is about it
yeah,
in his
yes,
performance.
yes. So yeah, which is dope. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess what else do we want to? Oh, I also want to mention. I mean, they shot this in Iceland,
Oh, it's so
and
beautiful. Oh my God.
gorgeous landscapes.
It's
I
so
mean,
beautiful.
absolutely stunning. I mean, there's some wide shots from like, holy shit!
They
Like,
got some
where do
crazy
they go to
shots
get that?
of like the night sky, which I don't know if they touched that up
Yeah,
with CGI or something, where it's
probably
just like it's like it looks so
incredible though.
beautiful. It looks
Beautiful,
so beautiful.
so gorgeous.
Yeah, I really, really, really like the cinematography of this movie.
Yes, it looks amazing.
I think that's again a huge strength of Robert Eggers' movies is just
And his
that
cinematographer, they work with his. I looked this up. The cinematographer's only work on Robert Eggers movies.
that's
Like he
dope.
hasn't done other movies, which I thought was really like cool. First of all, and like really interesting because like it's real collaboration. Like it's like
Yeah.
we we're making movies together forever. Like it's not like like he's not it's not a cinematographer situation where he's off doing a different movie and then which would be great too. There's a lot of cinematographers, Roger Deakins, that works like
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
different filmmakers and stuff like that. But it's interesting that the cinematographer only works with him. I think
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah,
interesting.
I would love to know more about that because, like, you just brought up Roger Dinkins, who's one of the most legendary cinematographers ever.
Yeah.
So legendary that you people actually know his name, which is very
Well,
rare.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
But like, I feel like this guy, his cinematography is like Deakins level
It's
quality.
incredible.
It's
Yeah, it's
crazy,
amazing.
especially
Yeah,
this film. It's
it's
mind
yeah.
blowing.
This movie like really because I love the cinematography and the witch and the lighthouse, but this movie I was like, whoa. I mean, there's just painting level shots and sequences in this movie that are just gorgeous. I mean, just stunning. Um, yeah, the look of it, the setting, I love so much. Um, yeah, I mean, what else? What else?
Do you want to talk about you? I'm really interested in talking about the response that you mentioned earlier. So
Oh
maybe we can
yeah,
close with
I
that.
mean, I guess like because okay, the other thing about it is like this movie's weird. I mean, it's not like
Yeah. Yeah, it
it's
is.
not weird. It's not like a Kubrick movie. I would say it's not like 2001, but it's definitely an out there movie. It takes like we said, it takes Viking culture and Viking you know myths seriously and portrays them like they're real to these people, which was the right way to do it and made the movie feel authentic and original and different than a lot of movies, um, period pieces especially. So I'm just like, but I saw this with a crowd, and I definitely felt from some people behind me, just hearing because they're annoying assholes, and they were, talking. They would say not like louder, they'd talk, and I just got the sense that they were completely perplexed by the
Yeah.
movie,
Yeah.
um, which I think is like fair. I think it's fair. I just think it's interesting to talk in regard to this is a $75 million $5 million movie. it made 20 million this weekend, around 15 million or something like that. It's pretty good. I'm glad that it didn't bomb. That makes me happy. I was really worried about that when I saw this. I was like, oh no, man, I hope this doesn't like completely flop, because I would
Yeah,
love to see Eggers make. This is what he does with 75 million. Like, keep giving him that budget. 'Cause, I mean, he can make some
yeah.
and really give him freedom. Just like give him 75 million. Just fucking just line them up and just go like a pirate movie. Go like a pirate movie. A
Oh,
fucking
that'd be so
authentic
dope.
pirate
Or
movie.
if he could finally make that
Yes.
Nosferatu movie that he keeps like hinting at.
Apparently, I'm sorry to
Oh, is
say
that
this,
not
but it's
happening?
not happening. Apparently,
Fuck.
I think he said in a recent interview, he said, "I don't think that film's gonna happen," which is very disappointing. But
Yeah.
um, part of me is like,
Sometimes,
I want to see it, but I'm also like, I'm kind of glad he's not remaking the movie. That would be the third remake of the Shrockies. It's I want to see more original. Like it's just I like that it just makes original things, but
yeah. I'm glad
that
it's
would have
good.
been cool.
Did he stop that project because it's just like this isn't clicking? I gotta do something
Well,
else.
also, I
Or
think he couldn't get it made.
mm.
I think he's more of like part of that, but I think he's also just disinterested, and he probably got him obsessed with pirates or a different time period.
Yeah, the next
Um,
thing. Yeah,
yeah,
the next thing.
and
Uh,
so, but yeah, I don't know. I just like, what do you think the broad response to this movie is gonna be? Do you think it's gonna like,
I mean, I have I had a weird experience when I sat when the movie ended and I was
oh
and I
no,
I, I was
the
watching it.
ending is perfect.
Yeah, it's so
The last
her,
shot, it's just so perfect. I love it
but
so much.
I watched it. I watched it at a weird times. I went to a matinee on a Tuesday, so I wasn't with a big crowd, and
Yeah,
there was a lot of like some like middle age or some older people there, maybe a couple young people. But when I was just thinking about that because it's just like I just was really curious what was going through their heads when they were walking out because they didn't
yeah,
necessarily look like super traumatized necessarily,
right,
which I wouldn't really expect with this movie. And
yeah,
I couldn't tell if they didn't necessarily look like I could not read them. I could
right,
not read them, and
yeah,
I was not in a place where I was projecting too many of my emotions to be able to determine what the vibe was. And
right,
it's such a weird thing because for me, I think this movie is just really fun at the end of the day.
yeah.
I
No,
think
I
it's a
think so
really
too. Yeah,
fun
yeah.
experience to watch, which I wouldn't really say about the Lighthouse
I mean,
or
it's
the
fun
Witch.
in the way, like it is very brutal and
Yeah.
very aggressive, but you're right. It is like a fun movie to watch. Like
But like you
it's a spectacle. It is a big budget spectacle movie. You know,
and people don't really have American audience don't really have too much of an aversion to violence, I would even say. We might like bring it
no,
up to a
I
point,
would
but
just I think I would just talk about more like the surreal aspects to the movie. That's what I kept hearing these responses where like it's part of me is like brushes it off, but it's just like do you know for me I was just happy that it was in the movie, and then halfway through the movie I realized like yeah, this is what it should be. Like if you're making a Viking film, that you're trying to be authentic and put people in the shoes of a Viking, yeah, this is what you do. Like you're not gonna like, not have these things.
right,
So
right. That's and
um
that's the thing because what the worry is that I found it really fun and easy to watch,
yeah,
but at the end of the day, I don't know if those other factors like the way they talk or the surreal moments are going to
exactly. Right.
dissuade people enough to be like, I didn't get it, or like it's frustrating to them
If you
because they
didn't get
couldn't
it,
piece it
I
together.
think you are like I don't understand you. Like the
Yeah.
movie's incredibly easy to get. I
I
just
I
think
I just think
I think the deeper aspects to it, the surreal stuff, I think you're either gonna like just I don't know, just brush it off as like I don't know what just happened there, or like when the when, like when he gets the sword, it's like did that happen or what was that scene? You know, like it's like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know because I would like to believe that this film would regard you if you just sit down and watch it, you'll have the experience where the story will eventually resonate because it's very
Yeah.
simple and it's very visually communicative. And I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
that you can understand the story visually. I'm just not sure how much like other people who don't like art films will resist to the weirder factors that we're
Exactly.
talking
Right.
about. How
Right.
much
Right.
are you gonna be dissuaded to want to just go with the film? Because I think if you just go
Yeah.
with it, you'll get it. I think you
Well,
will.
I mean that's yeah. I mean, that's that's a big problem with um modern movie going audiences. That's one of the reasons why this film is so cool to me, is that it's some people are gonna walk into this like I just started laughing because I just knew some people are gonna walk into this movie like I'm gonna see a Viking action movie, which this is, but
Yeah.
it's also like a meditation on revenge, and it's also like it's not like the whole movie's not men sweating men kill each other, and it's not even, and those scenes are hard to watch because it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's not fun. Like it's fun in the way of like more like the spectacle, but what's happening is brutal, and like scary in some respect.
Yeah.
Like, and the guy going pillaging a town where kids are running around and like the innocent people are being murdered, or is I don't find that fun. I love the spectacle, but it's also scary. It's scary.
Yeah,
So
well, and the other thing about it is that, well, like this film isn't quite as niche as like The
no,
Lighthouse
no, no, no,
is.
definitely not.
But
Yeah,
but back to, on that point of the way that Robert Eggers just makes films, that sort of psychological bodily control he has over you, I think a lot of people might find that unpleasant or
repulsive. Yeah,
aversive
right,
initially.
right.
And it's like I think you
That's why I'm so interested in like what the response to the movie will be. Because I know my friend didn't love this movie. Um, and like I know just because he's like not, I don't know, anything that's like surreal or like it's just so has such an aversion to it, which is really bizarre to me. But
Yeah, and it's hard
um,
because the way this movie is made, you can watch the surreal scenes and like sometimes you can just skip over stuff you don't like with surreal, but
uh,
it's that there's a psychological factor that you can't resist when you watch this movie. It
right,
just like it takes over
yeah,
you, and that can
right.
be it can be an unpleasant experience if you don't like
Because
that
a
type
lot
of
of movies
movie.
don't try to really do this. A lot
Right?
of
They're
it
more
is, especially
superficial.
big budget. I'm talking like big budget because that's what
Right.
this is. This is a You know, the posters and the marketing are looting. The posters for this movie are complete utter garbage. There's one that's really good.
Yeah, when he's
Um,
standing on the cliff,
yeah, the one that's on
that's
Letterboxd, so
dope.
that one's great. But the other ones are some of the worst posters I
Yeah,
have
they're
ever
such
seen
massive
in my
pieces of
life.
trash.
But like that's not, that's neither here or there. They're marketing to That's what Marvel movie posters look like. That's what posters look like. So they're marketing towards that audience. Um, so like
I
the
will
broad audience. So like it's good to talk about that. You
I
know,
will say I feel like the trailer did a good job sort of communicating the
right?
vibe of this
I think
movie
so
pretty
too. Yeah,
well. And I
yeah,
hope that that would have pulled in the right people to seek
right,
this film out as
right.
opposed to sort of like this because the problem that could happen is that if you get the right crowd for this, which is a little bit bigger than the niche crowd, I think the support for this film is will be massive because it's
Yeah,
so awesome and epic.
right.
But it has that runs that risk of sort of like stumbling into what we've seen with some A24 stuff like It Comes at Night or things like that where you have like this misadvertising where you get this crowd
Yeah,
who expects something
right,
and then they start shitting on it,
right.
but it's like it's never trying to be that thing. It's not
Yeah,
trying to be that. Never said it was.
right,
You just thought that. It's a
right.
miscommunication.
And I don't think that's happening.
I hope not. Yeah.
I just
I
this is just coming from like I this is one of the most crazy, like innovative and like interesting big budget movies to come out in like a while.
yeah.
Like a movie this scale and this like marketing push and stuff like that. Like I can't really think about that's not attached to an IP, obviously. Batman's
Yeah.
awesome. Batman rips. But it's Batman.
Yeah. Right.
And but so it's not attached to a name brand. So I just want this to be like hugely successful, you know, just in my heart. I want it to be
Yeah.
like I want our nerds to get I want this hard work that this movie took to make, you know, like to be paid off. Let these people celebrate, you know, and the success, you know, because this movie's so great, you know,
I
that
I
I want
I
it to succeed.
I hope the situation that we have, regardless, I want it to do that too, mainly for the reason that he gets to make more shit like this,
Right.
because this is
Exactly.
awesome.
Right.
And I would love it if he got to continue working on stuff like this.
Right.
Maybe combining more, like if he made a film, I don't know if this would ever happen, but with that big of a budget that's as wacky as The Lighthouse, I would it would blow my socks off. I don't know if that
Yeah,
would
that
ever
might be
happen,
tough to do, but it might
but like
happen. I don't know. Happen with Kubrick.
yeah, but I mean, like, I feel like this could be a situation like the Denis Villeneuve in 2049, you
Right.
know?
Right.
That, like, you right, like, that didn't do well. We've talked about that
No.
before, but he still got to make Dune, you
Right.
know? And I
Yeah.
don't know
No,
if
no, no. I he'll get projects off the ground.
yeah, for
Yeah, I'm not worried
sure.
about that. But
It will just be a discussion of budget in the future. It's like, is he going to
I
have to
think
go back to these smaller budgets
I
or
think it's
not? We'll
more for like
see.
I want this movie to succeed too because it would show other studios that people want to go see. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's like another reason. Is like
Right.
I would love this to be moderately successful and make, you know, its profit. And so it shows other studios like, oh, maybe like we could relight this, you know, film that I don't know if not here, like Ari Aster, you know, for example, like wanted
Mm-hmm.
to make a $80 million, you know, sci-fi movie that he's always wanted to make. Maybe we'll greenlight it because there's an audience for it. You know, Robert
Right.
Eggers, you know, as long as we get stars and the studio shit that makes people want to come to the theater, people will come, you know, and like, um, I
Yeah, that's
hope
a
that that's really what I hope for, you know. So we
yeah.
get more risky like filmmaker, you know, forward big budget movies like this, you know.
Right. And this is kind of interesting because this is the difference in the genius and innovation of a auteur like Eggers versus the Daniels,
Uh,
because Eggers films have it's like this, it's like a needle, you know, it stabs
yeah,
you in this way that is just like only that needle could do it, but it doesn't necessarily, it has just that very small point of impact where
yeah,
like everything everywhere at once, I think really will do what you're saying. It will
uh,
change what the way that people can think about what movies will get paid and what people
yeah,
will go see
right,
them. I want the Northman to do that too, but I'm
yeah.
skeptical that it will do that.
I don't think it will either, but
I really wish it'd be so awesome
yeah,
if it did, because if more people tried to make, not copy Eggers, but saw what he did, was just like, I want to make movies like how he makes movies.
yeah,
Great, which that's going to happen eventually, you know, because
right.
like people like us are our age
No,
are
he's
watching this shit,
yeah.
and are
I mean,
and some of us are going to be
he's a
filmmakers.
master filmmaker in the works. I mean, you're already seeing it with like just the caliber of actors that are in the movie. I mean, they wanted to work with this guy. I mean, and
Yeah,
his two previous films were The Witch and the Lighthouse. You know, that's there's something about him that is, you know, completely original and engrossing that actors are seeing it and want to work with him. You know, and
yeah, and
that's like he's in the best position for a filmmaker right now, where he's like actors want to work with me. You know,
right.
therefore I can get a lot of things made. You know, I don't really have to worry about getting something made unless it's like $150 million movie or something.
Right, right. That's a really cool thing about Robert Eggers, is that he has this almost impenetrable armor of just being so good that you can't deny it. Like you can't say
Exactly. Right.
like it's not that he, even though he's niche, like I feel like he's just too good to dismiss. You
Well,
can't
it's
just dismiss him
interesting
as a
to
weird
see
artist.
with the release of this movie, a lot of New York Times did an article about him, and like, you know, it's cool to see people are realizing like how of a master filmmaker he is with
Yeah.
this movie. which makes sense. And like, for honestly for me, this movie really did solidify like, okay, this guy is here to stay, and he's going to make
Some crazy shit.
crazy fucking shit.
Yeah,
And so um,
that's really true.
cool that people are embracing it, and
Yeah,
like doing profiles about him and getting his name out there so people know who he is,
that is actually really true. I agree with that because even regardless of how this movie will respond in terms of numbers, I do
Yeah,
feel like the way that Eggers is being approached is different. Like he like
right.
is like he's a fucking real ass
Yeah,
big league director now. Like no
yeah,
question.
right.
He's not just like a really good indie director. He's like
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah,
big
he's not
dog
a
director.
indie darling anymore. He's like
He's in it. He is
Zen.
there.
So it's like it is like a similar situation to Gnu New, where Gnu
Mm-hmm.
New started the great indie films, made a few like really mind blowing, you know, amazing indie films like Prisoners, with two big stars and made a huge splash, and he got to make Arrival and got to make, Sicario and all these things. And it just seems like that's happening with him, which is awesome. So
And I don't worry about that type of excess coming to him and corrupting him because he's like almost
no,
incorruptible. He's impossible to corrupt because he's so obsessed.
yeah.
It's just like it would
And he's also the kind of guy that if you he would just like if you he wouldn't agree to do a movie and like with a studio if he didn't know that like it was gonna work,
yeah.
like him doing this with focus. Obviously, the producers believed in him, so they let him do what he did. But sometimes, like you hear this a lot about filmmakers who get hired to do big budget things, they get bullied, by
Mm-hmm.
producers, and basically, it's not happening with him. If that happens, he's the type of guy that seems like if he's getting bullied, he will just leave
Yeah, right.
and say,
Yeah,
"Fuck your
exactly.
money, I don't care."
Yeah, he would just walk
I'm
out.
Robert Eggers. I need the lighthouse. I'll go make an indie movie. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
go to
So that's
A24 and they'll give me $2 million to make a
so he's
movie,
a
and I can get Robert Pattinson to star in my movie. So
and
fuck
they'd
you.
be like, okay, fine, fine. You can
That's the thing.
keep the 17 dog.
This is a really fucking cool movie. Good movie.
It's
That
real.
broke 2022 again.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on this year. Good movies apparently. It's crazy. This year is gonna be kind of insane.
Yeah.
My end of the year list is gonna be wild. So
I
hopefully,
yeah.
what if there's just no more good movies after this? This is
And
the
this is
end.
just it. Yeah, this is
Everything
just it.
else is Jordan Peele's movie sucks.
Oh, that would suck
Not
so
gonna
bad.
happen. But
Yeah, that's not. I don't
um,
see that
and
happening.
then I don't know. There's tons of shit. You know.
I mean, I guess I
Avatar
could.
2. Avatar 2 is just completely just horrible. Which that I could see that maybe happening,
Is that
but I
actually coming out?
think so. It's supposed to come out
Wow.
at the end of the year.
Wow. That's crazy.
Wow. Wow is
Yeah,
right.
that's insane. I
The
feel like that's
title was
gonna get
announced
pushed.
today.
What was it?
It's called Avatar: The Way of the Water.
All right.
That's what it's called. So
Man, I think we've mentioned I think you mentioned this before to me, but it's like it's cool that James Cameron is so invested in this, but he's so good. It's like,
yeah.
dude, you could have made
I it does
17
it does
movies.
break my heart that all he's gonna do for the rest of his career is make Avatar movies.
Yeah. And like Avatar 1 was okay. It was
Yeah,
just
it's cool.
okay. But
They also announced that they remastered it and that they're gonna re-release it in September.
yeah,
Which I think is a fucking brilliant idea,
that's a
because
pretty
I
cool
think
idea.
Avatar's old. Avatar's more than 10 years old. And to get
That's crazy.
audiences, back on board, amazing idea to release it back in theaters with, remaster it, which is a really cool idea to, update the visual effects and to make it look, more modern and better, um, for, I don't know. I haven't seen it in years, and that's a theater movie. I might even go to that. I haven't seen Avatar in years. Like being re-released in theaters, yeah, I'll go see that. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
get me ready for Avatar 2. Maybe it will remind me about how much I liked Avatar. I haven't seen it in fucking years. Like, I don't know.
yeah.
I loved it when I
And
was 12. It was
James
fucking
Cameron,
awesome when I was 12. You know?
James Cameron is an innovator. He is an undeniable innovator, and he's been
Oh,
working on
you bet
something
your
all
ass
this
I'm
time.
excited to see it. You bet your ass. I mean, Jake Cameron is, like I said, dude, the guy does not miss.
Yeah,
He rarely, I mean, it's just, so, and he's taken years and years and years to make this. So something about it is going to be jaw dropping,
yeah.
visually at least. Hopefully it's not Pocahontas Part 2. Maybe there's an actual original
Story.
story, you
Yeah,
know,
that'd be neat.
not Fern Gully Part 2, you know. There, he's, I just hope he leans more into the world of Pandora. Because Pandora is mind-blowingly awesome. The world is amazing.
Hmm.
So just lean into that, man. Just fucking lean into that. Don't be. I don't want him to be so tied into like telling a human, like or a like technology's gotten to the point where the whole movie could just be in Pandora. Just fucking do that.
I know, man. That's
You know.
yeah. So we'll that will be yeah, yeah.
Very.
It's
I mean,
true.
I'm excited.
It's true.
It's cool.
Yeah, well, it's shaping up to be a dope ass. I mean, it's already been a dope ass year because like these two movies, Northman and Everything Everywhere, are
Yeah.
like two movies that are going to be like some of my favorites, man. Like
Yeah.
I was watching the Northman, I was already like, I'm so excited to own this and
Yeah.
rewatch every single moment of
It's a
this. And
wild. It's incredible. It's great. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of crazy fucking shit, and so I'm Sonic 2. It's just my top 10 is gonna be stacked this year. Sonic 2,
number
Nope,
one.
The Northman. Yeah. So 2022 is gonna be an exciting year to talk about movies. So
Yeah,
um
heckin' dope.
thank you guys for listening. Go check out The Northman if you haven't. I hope you haven't because we spoiled it.
Yeah,
But go see it again. All
it's sweet.
right, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye bye.
Bye.